The registration hall on planet Ara was massive. Its walls were made of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Hundreds of aliens moved through the space, their bodies so different from each other that it looked like a strange dream. Some had 6 legs, others floated in the air. A few were so big they had to duck through the doorways. Stood in the middle of it all, his head barely reaching the waist of most aliens around him. He was 12 years old, small even for a human child. His black hair was messy, and his eyes were bright with excitement. He wore a simple gray flight suit that was too big for him. Next to him stood Captain. She was tall for a human woman, with short hair and a serious face. She had been a pilot for Earth's Defense Forces before she retired. Now she took care of. She put her hand on his shoulder as they walked toward the registration desk. The alien behind the desk looked like a giant beetle. His name was, and he had 4 eyes that blinked one at a time. When he saw an approaching, all 4 eyes opened wide. "Next," said in a voice that sounded like clicking stones. Stepped forward. "We're here to register for the Galactic Starship contest." Looked at his computer screen, then he looked at, "You want to register, the small one." "Yes," said calmly, "will be our pilot." A laugh came from somewhere behind them, then another. Soon, dozens of aliens were looking at them and making sounds that guessed were laughter. It sounded like music mixed with rocks falling down a hill. Waved his front legs. "Please, be serious. This is the Galactic Starship contest, not a, what do humans call it, a playground." "We are serious," said. His voice was high and young, but it was steady. "I want a race." More laughter. A large alien with red scales pushed through the crowd. Her name was and she was famous across the galaxy. She had won the contest 3 years in a row. She looked down at like he was an insect. "A human child," said. Her voice was deep and rough. "Humans are weak, slow, your bones break easy, your reaction time is terrible, and you want to put a child in a racing ship." She laughed again. "The G-forces alone would turn him into liquid." His face became hard, but she didn't raise her voice. "Grew up on the mining colonies near Jupiter. The gravity there is 3 times Earth normal. He has trained for this his whole life." "Training?" Bent down so her face was close to us. Her breath smelled like hot metal. "Little human, do you know what 12 feels like? Your insides will try to leave your body. Your eyes will fill with blood. You will pass out in seconds." Looked right back at her. "Then I guess I'll have to not pass out." The crowd got quiet, straightened up, surprised. Then she laughed louder than before. "I like this one. He has courage, at least. Too bad courage won't help when his soft human body fails." Tapped his computer with 2 legs. "The rules say any being from any species can attempt to qualify. But I must warn you, humans have tried before. They all failed. Most got hurt. Some," he paused, "some didn't survive." "Is different," said. "They all say that," sighed, a sound like wind through a tunnel. "Fine, sign here, but when he fails, don't blame us, and you'll need to pay for any medical bills." Signed the forms with her thumbprint. Signed too, his small hand shaking just a little, not from fear, from excitement. The qualification run was scheduled for the next day. That night, in their small ship parked at the racing complex, checked flight suit again and again. "You don't have to do this," she said quietly. "Nobody expects humans to race at this level. We've only been in the galactic community for 15 years. We're still learning." Was eating noodles from a bowl his favorite food? "That's exactly why I have to do it. Everyone thinks humans are weak, boring, not special." He slurped some noodles. "But we're not. I know we're not." "You're just a kid." "Maybe that's good," he said with a smile. "Kids don't know what's impossible yet." The next morning, thousands of aliens crowded into the viewing arena. The qualification run would be shown on screens across the galaxy. It wasn't because people thought would succeed. They came to watch him fail. It was entertainment for them. The simulator room was cold and smelled like ozone. The racing ship was small, built for speed. It had controls that looked too complicated for anyone to understand. Climbed into the seat. His feet barely touched the pedals. Had to adjust everything to fit his small body. "Remember," said through his helmet radio, "if it's too much, just stop. Press the red button. Nobody will think less of you." "I will," said. The simulator started. The screens around the arena lit up, showing what could see. A course appeared, full of obstacles and tight turns. The ship began to move faster and faster. 246. In the arena, aliens watched the numbers climb. They waited for the human child to black out. 810. His face was tight. His hands gripped the controls, but his eyes were clear. He was still flying. 12. The ship spun through a series of impossible turns, moved the controls with quick, precise movements. His small fingers danced across the buttons. On the screen, the ship wove through obstacles that most pilots couldn't navigate at half the speed. The arena got quiet. 14. "Impossible," whispered. The course ended. Ship crossed the finish line. The simulator powered down. When the score appeared on the main screen, the arena erupted. Not with laughter this time, with shock. Had not just passed. He had set the 5th fastest qualifying time in the history of the contest. Stood frozen at his station, staring at the numbers. Stood in the crowd, her mouth open. All across the galaxy, billions of aliens stared at their screens in disbelief. Climbed out of the simulator. His legs were shaky, but he was smiling, caught him in a hug. "How?" A push through the crowd. "How did you do that?" Shrugged. "I just flew." "No," said. "That's not possible. Your species is weak. The data says so. The science says so." "Maybe," said, still smiling. "Your data is wrong." Finally moved. He checked the computer again and again. There must be an error, a computer glitch. This can't be real. But it was real. The officials checked everything. The simulator, the sensors, bio readings, everything was correct. The human child had actually done it. That night, the news spread across every planet, every station, every ship in the galaxy. A human child had qualified for the Galactic Starship contest. The galaxy's most prestigious race would have its first human competitor. And he was 12 years old. In their ship, 8 more noodles while watched the news reports. Aliens were arguing. Some said it was a fluke. Others said humans must have cheated somehow. A few said maybe, just maybe, the galaxy didn't know everything about humans yet. "They're going to make the real races even harder," said. "They're going to try to prove you got lucky." Finished his noodles and put down the bowl. "Good. I didn't come here for easy." Outside, in the dark space above Aura, 50 racing ships prepared for the first race. The pilots inside were the best in the galaxy. They had trained their whole lives. They had advantages from their species' evolution. They had technology and experience. But none of them had ever faced a human in a fair race before. None of them knew what was coming. The morning of the first race, the entire galaxy was watching. News stations from 1,000 worlds pointed their cameras at the starting grid. Betting houses were taking wagers. Most aliens bet that the human child would crash in the first minute. Walked through the pilot preparation area with beside him. Other pilots stared at him. Some laughed. Others just shook their heads. He was so small compared to them. His racing suit was custom-made, but it still looked like a child playing dress-up. Was already at their ship, checking the systems. She was a young human woman with sharp eyes and fast hands. She worked as their engineer, and she knew everything about how racing ships worked. When she saw, she smiled. "The ship is perfect," said. "I checked everything 3 times. You're good to go." Thanks. Looked at his ship. It was small and silver, with Earth's symbol painted on the side. A blue circle with green continents. It looked tiny next to the other racing ships. A large alien with 4 arms stomped past them. His name was, and he was known for being aggressive. he accidentally bumped into, almost knocking him down, caught before he fell. "Oops," said with a grin that showed too many teeth. "Didn't see you there, little human. Maybe you're too small to race." "Maybe you're too big to see where you're going," said back. His grin disappeared. His forearms flexed, and for a moment it looked like he might do something violent. But officials were watching. He walked away, muttering in his own language. Another alien floated over to them. This one didn't have a solid body. He was made of swirling gas in a containment suit. His name was, and he thought he was smarter than everyone else. "I must say," said in a voice like wind chimes, "I find this whole situation fascinating. A primitive species sends a child to compete. Is this some kind of human joke?" "We're not primitive," said coldly. "Oh, but you are, relatively speaking," floated in a circle around. "Your species only discovered faster-than-light travel 15 years ago. Most of us have had it for thousands of years. You are bobbies in the galaxy." Looked up at the floating alien. "Even bobbies can surprise you." Laughed, a sound like bottles clinking together. "We shall see." He floated away toward his own ship. The announcement came over the speakers. All pilots needed to board their ships. The race would start in 10 minutes. Helped into his cockpit, she checked his harness, his helmet, his oxygen supply. "Remember the course," she said. "The asteroid belt is dense. Most pilots will try to push through with speed and power. Don't do that." "I won't," said. "Use your head, find the paths they can't see." His hand rested on his helmet. "And come back safe. That's more important than winning." "I'll do both," said with confidence. Stepped back, the cockpit closed. Was alone now, surrounded by screens and controls. He could hear his own breathing in the helmet. His heart was beating fast, but not from fear, from excitement. 50 ships lined up at the starting position. The asteroid belt stretched out before them, a field of rocks floating in space. Some asteroids were as small as a fist. Others were as big as mountains. They moved in patterns that were hard to predict. The countdown began. 10 seconds, 9, 8. His hands rested lightly on the controls. He had practiced this 1,000 times in simulators, but this was real. Real danger, real competition. 3, 2, 1. The ships exploded forward. The sound was like thunder mixed with screaming. Ship shot ahead, the acceleration pressing him back into his seat. Around him, the other ships were already jockeying for position. Ship slammed sideways into another pilot, pushing them toward an asteroid. Ship glowed as it used some kind of advanced shields. A's ship was in the lead, moving with perfect precision. The first asteroids came fast. Most pilots had to slow down or risk collision, but saw something the others didn't. The asteroids weren't random. They moved in patterns, like a dance. His ship dove between two spinning rocks, missing them by inches. Other pilots had to go around, went through. In the viewing arena, aliens leaned forward in their seats. On the screens, they watched ship move in ways that seemed impossible. He was already passing the slower racers. "He's going to crash," one alien muttered. "Any second now," another agreed. But didn't crash. His small human hands moved across the controls with perfect timing. When a large asteroid came toward him, he didn't dodge. He used its gravity to slingshot around it, gaining speed. "That's not normal piloting," said, watching from his official's booth. "That's something else." Watch from the pit area, her hands clenched. "Come on, show them." The middle section of the course was the hardest. The asteroids were packed so close together that there seemed to be no path through. Most pilots slowed way down, carefully picking their way forward. Saw it differently. He saw the gaps. He saw the angles. His brain worked like a computer, but faster. Humans had evolved to solve puzzles, to see patterns, to throw spears at moving targets across long distances. That ancient skill was helping him now. His ship twisted and spun, moving through spaces that seemed too small. Other pilots watched on their screens, confused. How was the human fitting through there? It was because was small. His hands were precise. He could make tiny adjustments that bigger aliens with bigger fingers couldn't make. His ship responded to touches so light they barely registered. Past another ship, then another. He was moving up through the ranks faster than anyone expected. Saw the human coming up behind him. Angry, he tried to block's path, but simply went under him, using a gap between asteroids that's bigger ship couldn't fit through. Impossible, shouted in his cockpit. Was ahead, his ship protected by expensive shields, but shields used power. They made the ship slower. Didn't have shields. He didn't need them. He had something better. He had skill. Ship pulled alongside. The gas alien saw him and couldn't believe it. How are you keeping up? You're just a child. Kids are good at games, said over the radio. Then he pulled ahead. The finish line was coming up, could see it on his screen. He was in 10th place now, 9 ships ahead of him. The crowd in the arena was going crazy. No one could believe what they were seeing. In the final stretch, pushed his ship to maximum speed. The G-forces were crushing. His vision started to go dark at the edges, but he held on. He'd trained for this. His body, adapted from growing up in high gravity, could handle it. 2 more ships fell behind him, then another. Crossed the finish line in 7th place. 7th place out of 50 ships, on his first race, as a 12-year-old human. The arena exploded with sound. Aliens were shouting in 100 languages. Half of them were cheering. The other half were arguing. Some were demanding an investigation. This couldn't be real. It had to be cheating. Ship landed in the pit area. When he climbed out, his legs were shaking. The race had been hard, harder than any simulator, but he'd done it. Pulled him into a hug so tight he could barely breathe. Was jumping up and down, yelling. Other humans who worked on the racing station came running over, celebrating. But not everyone was happy. Officials surrounded ship immediately. They wanted to check everything. The engine, the computer, the controls. They were sure he must have used illegal AI assistance. Supervised the inspection himself. They took apart half the ship, scanning every component. 2 hours later, they had to admit the truth. The ship was completely normal. No AI, no illegal modifications, nothing. It was just. I don't understand, said quietly. Your species is supposed to be average. Slow reflexes, poor spatial awareness. How did you do this? Was eating a sandwich while the officials worked. I just flew, like in practice. But you were making decisions in milliseconds, seeing paths that master pilots missed. That shouldn't be possible for a human. Stepped forward. Maybe you don't know humans as well as you think. In the viewing arena, I sat alone, watching the replay of the race. She studied every move made, the way he saw patterns, the way he took risks, the precision of his flying. He's not flying like an adult, she said to herself. He's flying like someone who doesn't know fear yet. The news stations were going crazy. Every channel showed the same images. The human child in 7th place. Some reporters said it was luck. Others said it was impossible. A few said maybe, just maybe, humanity was more than anyone thought. That night slept well in his small cabin on ship. But across the galaxy, millions of aliens lay awake thinking. If a human child could do this, what else could humans do? The next race was in 3 days. Officials were already making it harder. They were sure the first race was just luck. The next one would prove that humans didn't belong here. But they were wrong. They were very wrong. The investigation lasted 2 full days. Scientists from 12 different species examined. They scanned his brain. They tested his reflexes. They watched videos of his training. They couldn't find any enhancement, any drugs, any illegal technology. Was just a regular human kid. That made it worse for them. A special meeting was called at the Grand Science Hall on Ara. Doctor, a human physician who worked with the Racing League, was asked to explain. The room was filled with alien scientists who looked confused and frustrated. Doctor stood at the front of the hall, calm and professional. He had gray hair and kind eyes. "What would you like to know?" And scientist named clicked his mandibles. "Everything. We need to understand how this is possible. The human species was rated as average in every physical category. How did a human child compete with the galaxy's best pilots?" "You're asking the wrong question," Doctor said. "You're not asking how he competed. You're asking why your data about humans was wrong." Murmurs went through the room. Several aliens looked offended. "Our data is not wrong," insisted. "We have studied humans for 15 years. We know your capabilities." "Do you?" Doctor smiled. "Let me tell you about humans. We evolved on a planet called Earth. It was a dangerous world, no claws, no venom, no armor. We were weak compared to other predators." "Yes, yes," another scientist interrupted. "We know this. That's why your species is rated as average." "But we survived," Doctor continued. "We survived by being smart, by working together, and by developing abilities you never tested for." He pulled up images on the screen behind him. "Humans are persistence hunters. We can track prey for days. We see patterns other species miss. We can throw objects with incredible accuracy. We can adapt to almost any environment." "Those are not relevant to racing," said. "Aren't they?" Doctor zoomed in on a brain scan of during the race. "Look at this. This is his brain working during the asteroid field race. See these areas lighting up. This is spatial reasoning, pattern recognition, three-dimensional problem solving. Humans are incredibly good at this. It's how we evolved to hunt, to build, to create tools." The room got quiet. Aliens leaned forward, studying the scans. "There's more," Doctor said. "Humans have something called an adrenaline response. When we're in danger, our bodies release chemicals that make us faster, stronger, more focused. It's temporary, but it's powerful. His body was flooded with adrenaline during that race. It enhanced everything he did." "That sounds like cheating," someone said. "It's biology," Doctor replied. "It's natural for us, and there's something else. Is young. His brain is still developing. Young humans take risks that adults won't. They learn faster. They adapt quicker. You all saw him as a disadvantage, but his age might actually be his greatest advantage." Was silent for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "We made assumptions about your species." "Everyone does," Doctor said. "You looked at our muscle strength and our reaction times and decided we were average. But racing isn't just about strength. It's about thinking, problem solving, adapting. And humans are very, very good at those things." The meeting ended with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. The next race was announced. The Gravity Well Sprint. It would take place near a massive planet with intense gravity fields. The course would pull and push ships in unpredictable ways. Only the best pilots could handle it. This time wasn't starting at the back of the grid. Because of his 7th-place finish, he was starting in the middle, position 25 out of 50. The night before the race got a surprise visitor. His older brother, Sung, arrived on a transport ship. Sung was 24 years old, tall and serious. He had been a pilot too once, but he gave it up after a bad crash. Sung grabbed his little brother in a hug. "I watched your race. The whole Earth watched. You're famous now." "It was just one race," said, but he was smiling. "One race that changed everything." Sung's smile faded. "But I'm worried. The other pilots, they're not happy. I've been reading the galactic news. Some of them are making threats." Nodded. "We've received messages. Some aliens are angry that a human is competing. They say is making them look bad." "They're scared," Sung said. "That's why they're angry. They thought they knew what humans could do. Now they don't know anything." The next morning, the atmosphere at the starting grid was different. The other pilots weren't laughing at anymore. They were watching him, studying him. Some looked nervous, others looked determined. Walked past and bumped into again, harder this time. You got lucky last race, human. Today, you'll see what real racing is like. Approached from the other direction. She didn't say anything too. She just looked at him with her reptilian eyes, assessing him like a predator watching prey. Floated nearby. I've studied your flight pattern from the last race, he said. I know your tricks now. You won't surprise us again. Just smiled, good luck. The ships took their positions. The gravity well sprint course was visible on everyone's screens. The planet below was huge, with gravity that could crush a ship if it got too close. But the race course went right along its edge, using the gravity to create high-speed turns and dangerous acceleration zones. The countdown started. This time when the race began, several pilots immediately moved to block. They had planned this. If they couldn't beat the human, they would stop him from racing at all. Ship was surrounded. On one side, above, another pilot below. They were boxing him in, forcing him to slow down. But had expected this. He cut his engines completely. His ship fell backward as the others roared forward. They were so focused on blocking him that they didn't notice him dropping away. By the time they realized, had looped around them and was coming up from a different angle. He did it again, shouted in the pit area. He tricked them. The gravity fields were the real challenge. They pulled at the ships, trying to drag them off course. Most pilots fought against the gravity, using their engines to push through. It took a lot of power and control. Did something different. He used the gravity. He aimed his ship at the planet, letting gravity pull him down. Other pilots watched in horror, thinking he was going to crash. But at the last second, turned hard, using the planet's gravity to slingshot himself forward. He gained massive speed without using any engine power. That's insane, said in the official's booth. That's genius, replied, watching carefully. Was moving fast now, passing ship after ship. The gravity fields that were problems for other pilots were tools for him. He saw them as opportunities, not obstacles. A was in the lead, racing perfectly. She had done this course 100 times, but in her rear display she saw climbing through the ranks, 3rd place, 2nd place. Now he was right behind her. No, growled, not possible. They entered the final section, a spiral around the planet's equator. The gravity here was strongest. Ships had crashed in this section before. Took the safe line, the one every expert pilot used. Took a different line, a spiral closer to the planet, more dangerous but faster. His ship shook, alarms blared in his cockpit. The hull was heating up from the gravity stress. His voice came through his radio. Pull up, you're too close. But held steady. His hands were firm on the controls. His young eyes watched the instruments carefully. He knew exactly how much his ship could handle. He came out of the spiral ahead of her. The crowd went absolutely wild. Crossed the finish line in 1st place. He had won. The viewing arena erupted in chaos. Some aliens were cheering. Others were shouting in anger. Officials were already calling for another investigation. But Sung was jumping up and down, yelling his brother's name, was crying with joy, was smiling so wide her face hurt. When climbed out of his ship, the galaxy had to accept a new truth. Humans could not just compete, they could win. Landed her ship and walked over to where stood. Everyone got quiet, waiting to see what she would do. The champion facing the human child who had just beaten her. She looked down at him. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then she did something no one expected. She bowed her head. You flew well, she said. Better than I expected, better than I wanted to admit. Thank you, said. But don't think this is over. There is still one more race, and I will not lose again. Walked away, her tail swishing behind her. That night the news spread even faster than before. A human had won a galactic race, not just competed, won. Came to visit doctor in his office. I need to apologize, the scientist said. We were wrong about humans, very wrong. You weren't wrong, doctor said kindly. You just didn't have all the information. Humans are different, not better, not worse, just different. Our weaknesses are sometimes strengths. Our youth is sometimes wisdom. Our differences make us unique. The galaxy is learning that now, said. Some are learning faster than others. But not everyone was happy. In dark corners of the galaxy, some aliens were very angry. An alien supremacist group sent a message. Humans didn't belong in the contest. They didn't belong in the galaxy. And they would make sure never finish the final race. Sung found the message first. His face went pale. We need to talk. The final race was 3 days away. And now, it wasn't just about winning anymore. It was about survival. The death threats started arriving immediately after win. Messages filled with hate and anger. Some said humans were cheating and needed to be stopped. Others said worse things. Things that made hands shake when she read them. Security around their ship increased. Guards patrolled the docking area day and night, but Sung wasn't satisfied. This isn't enough. Some of these aliens are serious. They really want to hurt. I'm not quitting, said. He was sitting on his bunk working with his holographic assistant. The AI was named Wu, and it helped him analyze race data. If I quit now, everyone will think humans give up when things get hard. I'd rather have everyone think that than have you get hurt, said. A knock came at the ship's door. Opened it carefully, her hand on a security button. Outside stood a human woman with a camera drone floating beside her. Hi, I'm Galactic News Network. I know this is a bad time, but could I ask a few questions? Almost said no, but stood up. It's okay, let her in. Entered her camera drone following. She was young, with bright eyes and a friendly smile. You're the biggest story in the galaxy right now. How does that feel? Weird, answered honestly. I just wanted to race. I didn't expect all of this. But you're changing things, said. Humans everywhere are signing up for training programs. Kids want to be pilots now. You're inspiring your whole species. Looked uncomfortable. I'm just one person. You're showing the galaxy what humans can do. His expression became more serious. But I have to ask, with all these threats, with all this danger, why keep racing? Why not stop while you're ahead? Thought for a moment. Because if I stop, it means they were right. It means humans don't belong here. And I don't believe that. I think humans have just as much right to be here as anyone else. We're different, but different isn't bad. The interview aired across the galaxy that night. Millions watched. Most aliens heard words and felt something they didn't expect: respect. But the supremacists only got angrier. The final race was announced. The Nebula Maze. It was the most dangerous course ever designed. Ships would have to fly through the nebula, a cloud of gas and energy where sensors didn't work, where electromagnetic storms could tear a ship apart, where space itself seemed to fold and twist. Pilots had died in the Nebula Maze before. The course was only used once every 10 years because it was so dangerous. They're trying to kill him, Sung said bluntly. They chose this course because they think can't survive it. Came to visit them in secret. The scientist looked worried. I need to warn you, I've heard things. Some pilots are planning to. Make sure you don't finish the race. They'll make it look like an accident. Which pilots? Demanded. I don't know for sure, but be careful, very careful. Left quickly, not wanting to be seen talking to them. Spent the next 2 days preparing. He studied the nebula data. He practiced in simulators. But the truth was, no one knew what the race would really be like. The nebula was unpredictable. Wu's holographic face flickered in front of. I've analyzed past races through the Nebula Maze. Ships that rely on sensors and computers have a 62% failure rate. Ships that use manual flying have a 41% failure rate. What about ships that use both? Asked. Unknown, Most pilots rely too heavily on one or the other. Wu paused. This is extremely dangerous. Your probability of finishing safely is only 55%. Better than I thought, said with a small smile. The morning of the final race, the atmosphere was tense. This was for the championship. A was in first place overall, was in second. If finished ahead of A, he would win the entire contest. A 12-year-old human would become the galactic champion. Across the galaxy, billions watched. Schools closed. Work stopped. This was the biggest sporting event in galactic history. At the starting grid, O approached one last time. I'm going to give you a chance to quit, she said. Not because of the threats, not because of politics, but because this course is deadly. You could die out there. So could you, replied. I've flown through worse. A leaned closer. You're a good pilot, maybe even a great one, but you're still a child. You don't understand what real danger is yet. Maybe, said, but I'm still racing. A studied his face. Then she nodded slowly. You have courage, I'll give you that. If you survive this, human, I'll respect you forever. If you don't, she paused, I'll make sure the galaxy remembers you. The ships took their positions, 50 pilots. One more time, but this race felt different, more serious, more real. The countdown began. His voice came through his helmet. Remember, if it gets too bad, you can turn back. No one will blame you. I know, said, but they both knew he wouldn't turn back. The race started. Immediately, several ships shot ahead into the nebula. The cloud was beautiful and terrifying. Colors swirled in impossible patterns. Lightning arced between gas clouds. Stars were barely visible through the murk. Sensors started glitching immediately. His computer screens showed nonsense data. He switched to manual controls, flying by sight and feel. Other pilots weren't so lucky. Within the first minute, 3 ships crashed into obstacles they couldn't see. Their distress beacons activated and rescue ships moved in, but they were out of the race. The nebula was like flying through soup. Thick clouds blocked vision. Electromagnetic storms appeared without warning. Ship was hit by lightning twice, overloading some systems. Wu called, "Can you boost the sensors?" Negative. Electromagnetic interference is too strong. You're flying blind. The AI's voice crackled with static. Ahead saw ship. The 4-armed pilot was struggling, his ship weaving erratically. Suddenly, his engines flared. He was accelerating, straight at. He's trying to ram you, screamed over the radio. Pulled hard to the side. Ship missed him by inches, but in dodging, flew into a dense gas cloud. Visibility went to 0. He was flying completely blind now. Other pilots would panic, but did something different. He closed his eyes, he listened to his ship, felt the vibrations, used his instincts. Humans had evolved to navigate in darkness, to track prey they couldn't see, to find their way home by feeling the wind and reading the stars. Flew by feel. His ship emerged from the cloud safely. Behind him wasn't so lucky. His ship clipped an asteroid and started spinning. He was out. The middle section of the maze was the worst. Space itself seemed wrong. Gravity shifted unexpectedly. What looked like open space was sometimes solid barriers. What looked like walls were sometimes empty. Ships were dropping out one by one. Some crashed. Others gave up, too terrified to continue. By the halfway point, only 15 ships remained. And were still racing. They entered a section where lightning storms were constant. Electricity arced between clouds, looking for metal to strike. Ships' shields were being overwhelmed. A's ship took a massive hit. Sparks flew from her engines. Her ship started losing power. Saw it on his display. A was in trouble. If she lost power completely, she'd be stranded. In this section of the nebula, that was a death sentence. The storms would tear her apart. He was ahead of her, he could keep going, he could win. But he looked at her ship, struggling, and something inside him made a choice. Slowed down. "What are you doing?" shouted. "You're letting her catch up." "Her ship is dying," said. "She needs help." "This is a race, you can't." "I can," said simply. He pulled his ship alongside A's. Her eyes were wide with surprise when she saw him. "Human, what are you doing?" "Your navigation is offline, right?" asked. "Yes, my sensors are dead. I'm flying blind." "Follow me, I'll guide you through." "Why? You're giving up your chance to win." "Maybe winning isn't everything," said. Then over the radio for everyone to hear, "Stay close. When I turn, you turn, trust me." I was silent for a moment. Then, "You're insane, but okay, I'll follow." The two ships flew together through the storm, called out directions. "Left in 3 seconds, now, straight. There's lightning ahead, dodge right." I followed his instructions. Together, they navigated through the worst part of the maze. In the viewing arena, the crowd was completely silent. Aliens couldn't believe what they were seeing. A human giving up victory to save his rival. Finally, they emerged from the storm. A's ship stabilized. Her systems came back online. She pulled alongside ship. "Why did you do that?" "Because it was the right thing to do," said. "But I'll win now. We're near the finish line and my ship is faster." "I know." A's ship pulled ahead. She crossed the finish line first, crossed it fourth. The race was over. I had won the championship. But something had changed in that nebula, something more important than any race. When landed his ship, the pit area was strangely quiet. No one knew how to react. He hadn't won the championship, but he'd done something that confused everyone. He'd saved his competitor. Was waiting for him. Her face was a mix of emotions, pride, confusion, maybe a little frustration. "You could have won," she said softly. "You were ahead." "I know," said, taking off his helmet. His hair was soaked with sweat, but she needed help. Sung ran over and hugged his brother. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen, and the craziest." Was crying. "I thought you were going to die out there, both of you." Officials approached, not sure what to do. There were rules for racing, but no rules for what had done. How do you score a race where someone gives up winning to save another pilot? Then approached. Her scales were scorched from the electrical storms. Her ship had barely made it. She walked straight to and stood there looking down at him. The crowd held its breath. I knelt down, bringing her reptilian face level with. "In all my years of racing, across all the species I've competed against, I have never seen anyone do what you did." Her voice was thick with emotion. "You gave up everything to save me. Why?" "Because you would have died," said simply. "No race is worth someone dying." "But I'm your rival, your enemy in the contest." "You're not my enemy. You're just someone else who loves to fly." A's eyes glistened. Then she did something that shocked everyone. She took off her champion medallion, the one she'd worn for 3 years, and placed it around his neck. "What are you doing?" asked. "You are the true champion," I said loudly so everyone could hear. "Not because you were the fastest, but because you showed what a real champion is. Someone who values life over victory. Someone who helps others even when it costs them everything." She stood up and addressed the crowd. "I won the race today, but this human child won something more important. He won honor." The arena erupted. This time there was no confusion. Aliens from 100 worlds stood and cheered. Some were crying. Others were stunned, but all of them understood they had witnessed something special. Approached the platform, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "This is unprecedented. I don't know how to record this in the official results." An old voice spoke from the shadows. "Perhaps I can help." Everyone turned. An ancient alien stepped forward. He was called, and he was the oldest living being in the galaxy. He had founded the racing contest centuries ago. No one even knew he was still alive. Moved slowly, his body supported by a floating platform, but his eyes were clear and bright. "I created these contests for a reason," he said. "Not to see who was fastest, but to see who was best. And today I saw what best truly means. Elder bowed deeply. What do you suggest? A wins the race. The records will show that. Looked at. But this human child wins something greater. He wins the founder's honor, an award I have only given 3 times in 500 years. It is given to those who exemplify what the galaxy should be. Pulled out a crystal that glowed with inner light. He held it out too. This is for you, young one. Wear it with pride. Took the crystal amazed. Thank you, elder, but I just did what felt right. Exactly, said with a smile. You didn't think about glory or fame, you thought about life, about kindness. These are the things that make someone truly great. He turned to address the crowd. For too long we have valued strength over compassion, speed over wisdom, winning over helping. This human child has reminded us of what matters most. The cheering grew louder, but not everyone was cheering. In dark corners of the galaxy, the supremacists watched with rage. They had failed to stop the human, failed to prove their superiority. Their anger grew. But something else was growing too, something stronger. Later that night, official announcements began arriving from across the galaxy. The Empire requested human advisors for their fleet. The Kelvin Collective wanted to study human problem-solving methods. 100 species sent invitations for humans to visit, to teach, to share their unique perspective. Most importantly, an official message arrived from the Galactic Council. It was short but significant. Humanity is invited to join the Galactic Council as a full member species. Your unique qualities and values would benefit all. Read the message with tears in her eyes. 15 years. We've been trying to get full membership for 15 years, and one race changed everything. It wasn't the race, Sung said. It was showing them who we really are. Came back for another interview. This time her questions were different. The whole galaxy is talking about you, not just humans, everyone. What do you want to say to them? Thought carefully. I want to say that being different is okay. Humans aren't the fastest or the strongest, but we care about each other. We help each other. And maybe that's just as important as being fast or strong. Some aliens are saying humans are too soft, too emotional. What do you say to that? I say emotions make us human. Caring about others isn't weakness. It's what makes life worth living. Smiled. If being human means caring too much, then I'm proud to be human. The interview spread across every channel, every planet, every station. And slowly, the galaxy began to change. Racing leagues across the galaxy announced new safety rules, medical teams for every race, rescue protocols. These changes were inspired by what happened in the Nebula Maze. They became known as rules. More importantly, other species started questioning their own values. If a 12-year-old human could show such compassion under pressure, what did that say about them? About their cultures? About their priorities? Published a paper called The Human Factor: Compassion in a Competitive Galaxy. It became the most read scientific paper in history. Doctor was invited to speak at universities across the galaxy. He talked about human nature, human evolution, human values, and aliens listened, fascinated. 3 months later, a special ceremony was held on the human Earth. The Galactic Council officially welcomed humanity as full members. Representatives from 1,000 worlds attended. Was there still just a kid, still wearing clothes that were a little too big. Elder was there too, looking pleased. You passed a test, said quietly too. One I designed 500 years ago. I built that racing contest hoping that someday someone would choose mercy over victory. Most species failed. They cared only about winning, about being best, about proving superiority. He put a wrinkled hand on shoulder. You succeeded because you never thought of it as a test. You just did what felt right. Was it all a test? Asked. The races, the dangers. The races were real, the dangers were real, but I was waiting, hopping, believing that someday a species would emerge that valued life over glory. Smiled. I'm glad it was humanity. You have much to teach us. Back on Ara, the racing complex was full again. A new season was starting. But this time, dozens of humans were competing. Young pilots inspired by, engineers like who wanted to prove their skills, coaches like who wanted to share their knowledge. And the other alien pilots welcomed them, not as curiosities, not as jokes, but as equals, as friends. I had become his mentor. She taught him advanced racing techniques. In return, taught her about human philosophy, about seeing racing as more than just competition. You changed me, I said one day while they were working on ships together. Before you, I only cared about winning, being the best, being the champion, but you showed me there are more important things. Like what? Asked. Like being someone worth respecting, someone who makes the galaxy better, not just faster. I looked at her ship. I've won 10 championships now, but the day you saved my life in that nebula, that's the day I'm most proud of, because it taught me that being saved by a friend is worth more than any trophy. Smiled, we're friends now. Of course we are, little human. You saved my life. In my culture, that creates a bond that can never be broken. A year passed, then another. More humans joined the galactic community. They weren't trying to prove they were superior. They brought their unique perspective, their compassion, their creativity, their ability to find common ground between different species. Conflicts that had lasted centuries were resolved with human mediators helping both sides see new solutions. Scientific problems were solved with human researchers asking questions no one else thought to ask. Art, music, and culture flourished as humans shared their creativity with the galaxy. Earth became a popular destination. Aliens came to see the world that had produced this remarkable species. They walked on beaches, climbed mountains, experienced the diversity of a single planet that had taught humans to appreciate differences. Grew older. By the time he was 16, he had retired from racing. He'd won enough, proved enough. Now he wanted to do something else. He became an ambassador. He traveled to worlds that were hesitant to join the galactic community. He talked to species that felt they didn't fit in. He shared his story. Not the story of winning races. The story of being small, being young, being different, and still finding a place where he belonged. The galaxy is big, he told them. Big enough for everyone. Your differences aren't problems, they're gifts. The galaxy needs what makes you unique. More species joined the council. Species that had been isolated because they were too slow, too weak, too different. They joined because a human child had shown them that different wasn't bad. One night many years later stood on his ship looking at the stars. He was 30 years old now, not a child anymore. But he still remembered that day in the nebula maze, the choice he'd made, the moment that changed everything. Now an admiral in Earth's fleet stood beside him. Do you ever regret it, giving up that championship? Never, said without hesitation. I lost a race, but the galaxy won something better. What's that? Understanding. The understanding that we're all in this together, that helping each other is more important than beating each other, smiled. I is still my best friend. Humans are respected members of the council, and kids from 1,000 worlds dream of being pilots now, not just winners. You changed the galaxy. No, he said gently. I just reminded the galaxy of something it forgot, that the best victories are the ones where everyone wins, where nobody has to lose for you to succeed, where being kind is just as important as being strong. Above them the stars shone, a galaxy full of life, full of differences, full of possibilities. And somewhere out there, a new child from a new species was dreaming of the stars, dreaming of the day they could join this great community, knowing that no matter how different they were, no matter how small or young or strange, they had a place here. Because a human child had shown them the way. Not by being the fastest or the strongest but by being kind when it mattered most. And that had made all the difference.